Hello, you're watching Tales of Gear. Welcome to the primary weapon system series of videos. And if you have watched my last video, it was all about the M653. I'm continuing the series with the M653, and this is part 1, where I will cover the complete upper. Part 2 will be about the lower, and part 3 will be about magazines. So before I start getting into all the details, how I've built the upper, I'd like to share with you a few things about this project. Almost 3 years back, I figured I have the chance to actually start with the project and to go through with it, because I really like the M653 and I got the opportunity to actually get my hands on some crucial parts for the build, and I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity, because a couple of years before that I did and regretted it, and I didn't want to be in the same situation again, so I went for it. The idea of the project was first to make a perfect clone correct build, and this means to use as much real steel parts as possible. Secondly, to make it actually work and to keep the costs for the build low as possible, and to use high quality parts to actually have the feeling to operate a real M653. All comes back to the real steel parts, of course, and the real steel parts actually say what other airsoft GBBR parts you need to get in order to achieve the goal. I will cover that in a bit. So this was and still is a project I'm working on. I mean, the gun works, but there is always this little something I could do better to make it better, which I'm doing all the time, bit by bit. If you wanna do such a project, my advice is plan everything ahead. Each part you need for the project, check if you can get it, check all the costs that will be involved and add to it like 30% more. Be prepared to buy the same part a couple of times, because I did some mistakes and had to reorder some parts. Also be prepared that some parts might break. Be prepared and patient for a long time on waiting on parts, and it really takes patience. Yeah, it takes also a lot of money to make such a build, but I'm very happy with it, and at the end it was all worth it. Okay, enough about that. Let's get into the features of this upper receiver. I will start with the bolt carrier group. There you go. This is the bolt carrier group I'm using right now. This is a CNC steel Crusader brand bolt carrier group with the V2, or I think it's the V3 N-Pass VFC nozzle. It's actually a VFC clone, but made out of steel. I've started the project by purchasing the VFC one because it was to specs and should work without any modifications in the upper receiver. So this is the actual VFC zinc alloy bolt carrier group. It looks very nice. It is very cheap, around $35, and it worked perfectly even with CO2. But I did some mistakes I just wasn't aware of, and it ended up cracking. If I would now use one of these, I'm pretty sure it would hold up great. Only the parts that will really wear out are in this area here and in this area here. That are actually the weak parts. This part here that catches the bolt catch is actually pretty good, because it has this steel insert and it holds up really great. Now I had to switch from a $35 bolt carry group to a nearly $200 bolt carry group, and also from green gas to CO2. I had to do it in order to achieve the real steel feel, and I'm not sorry. So the other thing I had to do is to drill out on both the gas key. The gas key wasn't drilled, and I had to do that in order to fit the real steel gas tube, which I will show you now. So this is the bolt carrier group. It was a drop-in fit, no modifications required to it, as long as it's the VFC. I don't know how it would work with some other brands like GHK or Vipertech. I guess okay, but you need to pair up the groups of parts that are related to each other. So if you take this bolt carrier group, you can't use the GHK hop-up unit maybe, or the Vipertech. You need to make them fit. So continuing, because this part is out, this is a real steel Colt made, vintage 70s Colt made charging handle. Moving on, first the look inside. You can see the gas tube, and most of the airsoft GBBRs, they don't have the gas tube protruding that much out like the real one, and this is just a neat little detail I just had to have on my build, because I'm using a real gas tube, Colt gas tube, vintage as well, and therefore I had to drill out the gas key so it fits on the gas tube. Moving on to the receiver, the upper, that's a vintage 70s made Colt upper. All the parts on it are original, as well as the finish. Here you can see it is heavily used, the most wear on this carry handle part. It has all the marks of being used, as you can see, and if you go for such a project, I don't know, I wouldn't go for the pristine looks, because it is much harder than to get all the parts in mint condition to make a mint condition build. I just like also the used look, as you can see. It looks really cool. Now moving on to the front, we have the delta ring. This is also a vintage Colt made, 70s made Colt. Then we have the handguards. The handguards are retro, they're a clone of the Colt ones, and I'm very pleased with these, but I really hope to have the chance to get my hands on real Colt made ones. At this point they are not that cheap, and I don't think they will get any cheaper, but maybe I will have the opportunity to get them. For now, these will be perfect. Sorry, the camera doesn't like the shine of it. They are pretty good clone ones of the Colt. No modifications needed. These real steel retro ones fit perfectly. That's that. Now here we can see the gas tube and the delta ring. The handguard cap is the round one, also vintage Colt for the slim barrel, .652, as you can see. Moving on, front side. The complete front side is original 70s made Colt, vintage. The sling swivel is also original, as you can see. Here are the markings, and here a neat little detail. That's the C for Colt. Also, everything you see here has its original finish. Nothing was refinished or refurbished, just cleaned and oiled. Then we have something I really like. That's the original M16A1 birdcage flash hider. And you may ask, wow, how did you fit that one in? Well, let me say something first about the washer, which is also original Colt vintage, and I had to widen it, its inner diameter, to actually fit this barrel. And this flash hider was rethreaded to fit the outer barrel. So it's a real one, but it was modified to fit the airsoft barrel. The barrel you see here is a GMP steel outer barrel, which I have modified with the markings here. Chrome bore. I know it's not the best and should be deeper, but it was very difficult for me to punch in these letters on a steel barrel by hand. So that's the best I could get it. Something similar. Oh yeah, here's also the marking that should be on the barrel. That's C, that makes it a Colt barrel. And something similar I've done here, the bolt carry group. You can see, just a moment. Here you go, the C, which makes it Colt. So let me see. These are the outer parts of all that. This is the GMP 14.5 inch pencil type barrel, but has the clockwise thread, 14 millimeter. Inner barrel is a stock GMP barrel, and here is the hop-up unit. And here are a few things I need to say about that. Initially, I've used the barrel extension, the hop-up unit, and the barrel made by GMP. But around a year into the project, and after a lot of testing, I had the first troubles. And the troubles were related to the barrel extension. This is the GMP barrel extension, which supposedly is steel, but as you can see, this one just crumbled away. I might be partially fault for that, because I had to trim down the outer diameter of this barrel extension in order to fit into the upper. I didn't want to mess around with the real upper, because I was sure I wouldn't get a chance to get another one if I mess up. So I messed up this one. So, well, after a little bit of research, this is actually not real steel, but it's powder metallurgy or something, I don't know. It's okay for stock GBBR setups, but when you go with a lot of real steel parts, and yeah, it just doesn't work. I could make a hour-long video just about the barrel extension and what you need to pay attention to when installing it, etc. So I might do that at some point, but I won't go too much into details right now. So after fitting a new barrel extension, and I was trying to get my hands on, it was the brand Samun, Taiwan brand. They make a actual steel CNC barrel extension. It's around $50 or $60, and I was determined to get one. Unfortunately, at that point there were a lot of restrictions because of the coronavirus epidemic, and I just couldn't get my hands on that one. So I needed another solution, and that was actually to get this one here. That's a CNC steel Element brand. I know you will say Element isn't that high quality, and well, it turns out this barrel extension actually works perfectly. The outer diameter is perfect to fit the real steel upper, and the steel is actually good, and it held up so much abuse, and for $10 or $11 it really is worth it. This one is damaged a little bit, as you can see, and that's my fault because I was learning how to actually make it work and properly install it and to make it work. So I've changed that out after I have figured out the complete installation process, and once I got this sorted out, I simply dropped in a new one to, well, to have a nice barrel extension inside. So that's that. As for the hop-up unit, the GMP one worked just fine. I still have it just in case. It has this nice clicking dial, and the only problem was it is very specific, and you can't find aftermarket buckings, and you're stuck with 0.28 gram BBs at heaviest, because the hop-up just can't make any hop on heavier BBs, and that bothered me. Also, it's made out of pot metal, and I wanted something nicer, so I went for a CNC aluminum hop-up unit. And yeah, I made it work, but it took me a very long time and a lot of effort and a lot of work to actually fit it in and to make it work. It's great now. I have a maple leaf bucking inside, and I can run up to 0.36 gram BBs with it, and it works perfectly. No feeding issues. Everything is assembled as should be, as you can see here. The bolt locks in perfectly in that, so I'm very happy how the upper turned out. And yeah, there might be some space for improvements in terms of maybe getting a nicer outer barrel, but I don't know. For now, it really works great. I'm very happy with it. So let me see. I think I have covered everything. So the only real work was a little bit on the front side, and a lot of work on the hop-up chamber and fitting everything with the bolt carrier group. So this is actually it. If you have any questions about the build of the upper, please feel free to comment in the comments below, and I will answer you, or you can contact me directly, whatever fits you best. This is it for part 1. See you in part 2. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye.